Black men aren't just abusers, they're also abused. Black men are not just dominating the home because the black home was not constructed as an entity of male domination like
It was not, and we've been, that's one thing. That's one thing. It's been documented. The thing is, the black manosphere has been documenting the exact opposite in the black community. Okay, and even as bold as like BLM and other feminists say, she say that, right? The black males do not dominate the home.
it was for the white race. So then how do you just translate this idea of male domination in the home among white people to mean the same thing as male domination in the home for black people? See, there's a cultural gap there. But these pundits don't have to attend to any of the culturally relevant and culturally specific antecedents of black violence within our communities or within our homes. They just repeat the dominant idea that they know flies with pretty much white liberal thinking, which is patriarchy, sexism, and misogyny. So by not listening to the experts, what we have is this deliberate misrepresentation on social media. That
No, notice he's a deliberate misrepresentation. It's not just on social media. It's actually in the in academia too.
fits a very specific, politic. I mean, the people making these commentaries are self-avowed black feminists and liberals. They believe that black men should be chastised anytime they don't fall in line with liberal thinking.
Yep.
God forbid black men say the Democratic Party
We just saw that with the Democratic Party and the black females, right?
or liberal party platform doesn't benefit them. Somehow they want to be right-wing conservatives. There's all kinds of things
All that stuff that he probably would not have said 2 years ago, he's saying now. Okay, because now he has the space to say it.
that black men are held accountable for that flies within popular media and the popular imagination that really just can't be shown within the research. If we were going on a strictly research basis, right? So we're looking at black male attitudes. We would find that black men are extremely progressive on issues of childcare, gender equality, economic inequality. They're very akin to women's issues on abortion. They're very sensitive to linked fate or the close relationship that black men and women's political, heritage and legacies have to each other. That we benefit and lift each other up. That's what the research shows. But if you go off social media, you would think that every black man's a rapist, compensating for his inability to be a white man and ultimately violent from the womb.
I just heard a PhD professor spit the same shit that he's talking about, the negative shit. For a whole hour, they just been. I've had like 10 people send me her stuff, and I may show a little bit of it a little later, but just to show that what he's saying is not off. I know you guys probably hear it all the time, okay, about the negative connotations of black. We just heard that from Sabby Sab, right? The same kind of negative bullshit that keeps getting spun.
And it's this difference, right? It's this difference in how we speak about black men, or what our starting point is speaking about black men really are. I think this most recently, this was kind of shown with the New York Times release of Howard University, was only 19% of black men were on campus at an HBCU. For anybody that studies black men, this isn't surprising whatsoever. But what ended up happening was you had this kind of condemnation of black men. So anytime there's a disparity where black men are doing worse than another group, it doesn't become because of some kind of institutional racism or discrimination, some barriers that are preventing black men from succeed or from success. No,
Exactly.
there's something wrong with the mind.
There's something wrong. In fact, somebody sent me something. The 9 ways that black men fail. I can't remember the whole title of it. Where it's their fault. Okay.
Culture of black men. So they don't believe they could, or as Tory said, black men don't believe they could succeed in college. That's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, right? Black men have fought historically to be in college. They fought for higher education. The issue is the barriers. The issue is whether or not, because of high levels of discrimination, and this is what Chetty study showed a couple of years ago, even black men with college degrees that work hard, that are born into the middle class, end up falling to the lower classes, right? Why? Because the high rates of job discrimination, what we call in black male studies, the anti-black misandry, the negative conceptualizations of black men, even when they're educated, to be associated with criminality or to be
Yep.
even treated as if they have a criminal record,
Yep.
decreases the ability of them to earn the same thing that their white male or white female counterparts earn in those contexts. So these pundits don't attend to that specificity. They just attend to, well, this is my view of black men. This is the view that gets me liked. So we'll say all black men are deficit, deviant, and ultimately can be despised.
You brought up a great point, right? So people fail to acknowledge the fact that they themselves or the institution acts in a manner of society. They feel like they're for whatever reason, when you go to a job, the job doesn't have the same perspective as black people as society, and black men aren't impacted by that perspective, and they don't want to acknowledge the perspective they have, how it's been internalized, and how it impacts their view, also their behavior and their interaction with that person. So I think there's the denial about the biases people have towards black men and how it impacts their behavior and
No,
the
there
decision.
absolutely is.
You know why? You know why? You know why? Say it with me, fellas. Say it with me.
I'm done. I'm done with life, and it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is what I think is part of kind of the liberal mythology is that you look the liberal feminist ideology says that to be male is to be privileged, but that's not what the data shows. That's not what any study shows. Most studies
Yeah. That is the mythology. Okay, the data has never shown that. Okay, they say that black men are privileged and they're patriarchs and they're ruling over black women. When you look at the data, we're at the bottom. Make that shit make sense.
studies in Western society show that being male associates the target male group. So if you're a Palestinian man or a Muslim man or a black man with danger, this is why black male study scholars speak so adamantly about misandric aggression. Is that we have popular conceptualizations of how gender operates, but it's not backed up by any of the social or social psychological studies or data. Right? When you look at a man, you see that man as a possible encapsulation of every negative thing of an alien race. So if I see a black man, I see savagery, I see criminality, I see harm. So what we're expected to believe by these social media pundits, if you will, is that the popular discussion or concept of patriarchy that says that all men are privileged, right? When black men suffer some of the most egregious disadvantages within the society, incarceration, premature death during
Yeah.
COVID, suffered the most mortality but wasn't recognized for it, employment discrimination, educational discrimination, undereducated, et cetera. When you look at all these different issues, and you say, well, that's still privilege because they're a man. Well, is that how they're treated? So black men report having some of the highest rates of both direct discrimination, like active discrimination, as well as passive discrimination with on jobs or just in society, being treated differently than everyone else. But those studies, that all the work we get from actually investigating reality in the world, don't seem to matter much because we have this guiding ideology, right, that tells us no, you're privileged. Well, the effect of that is you don't think that men suffer by being men. You think that the stereotypes that cause black men to be shot walking across the street, that cause black men to be disregarded whenever they're sexually assaulted. Black boys have some of the highest rates of child sexual assault in the United States of any other group, but because they're men, they can't be sexually vulnerable.
Exactly, because they're men. Not because they're men, because they're male.
These kinds of feminist and liberal ideations of black maleness prevent us from understanding the vulnerability of the group. So there's no reason for people to think that black men suffer on the basis of maleness, not because it's not true, but because that's what everyone says. And what I think is one of the most deplorable aspects of these kinds of social media pundits is that they want to preserve viewership, right? And this is what I find to be greatly disingenuous about it.
And in other words, they're panda bears.
To preserve viewership, they will tell people that black boys are black men who suffer domestic abuse, or black boys who are survivors of child physical and child sexual abuse. Their stories don't matter because what's more important is focusing on the idea, and it's just the idea that violence is completely male directed from some kind of deviant or want to be powerful over women. You see, when the Duluth model was created, that's the name of the model. Michael Pyamar and Ellen Pitts created this idea that patriarchy causes domestic violence, that men beat women for power within the household. They only looked, I think there were a few Asians, but it was a predominant view of white people. They didn't ask black people, they didn't study black people about why violence breaks out in their communities. Right before the 1980s, the view about domestic violence was that black people, men and women, killed each other because they were culturally incapable of having strong nuclear families the ways that white people did. You see,
Very true. Clark said that, and Moynihan said that.
before you got from
Hold
this
on, real quick. That,
interpretation,
that was in academic studies.
no, that was academic studies. So I mean,
That's
you could
wild.
look at like if you look at Wolfgang and Ferracuti's book on the subculture of violence theory, they study Philadelphia. And they were asking, well, why is it that black women seem to kill more black men, have a higher homicide rate against black men, right, than other races of people?
And in fact, I actually bought that book and actually uh, have that quote that he's talking about. Okay, and that was from a 1965 study in Philadelphia, right, by Wolfgang. That actually said it exactly what he's getting. Now, pay attention what he's going to say. Okay, really, I want you guys to actually really focus on what he says about this, about what they thought before 1970 about the black community and violence. Okay, listen to what he says.
And their explanation was, well, black men aren't very
Let me go ahead and slow this down to normal speed. Okay, for you guys. Okay. Let me slow this down to normal speed because I really want you guys to hear this because when I bought the book just for that quote, believe it or not. Okay. I spent $50 on that book just for that quote.
Black people about why violence breaks out in their communities. Right before the 1980s, the view about domestic violence was that black people, men and women, killed each other because they were culturally incapable of having strong nuclear families the ways that white people did. You see, before you got for
Hold
this
on, real quick.
interpretation,
That was in academic studies.
no, that was academic study. So I mean,
That's
you could look
wild.
at like if you look at Wolfgang and Farrakuti's book on the subculture of violence theory, they study Philadelphia, and they were asking, well, why is it that black women seem to kill more black men, have a higher homicide rate against black men, right, than other races of people? And their explanation was, well, black men aren't very good patriarchs. Black homes are matriarchal, so the black woman having to take on the head of household role tend to shoot and kill these black men in their homes to discipline them because black men are not like white men. They don't know how to keep a nuclear family.
In other words, they're frustrated with. They said they were frustrated with the black men because they weren't like white men. They weren't good patriarchs. So, like you said, they did it to punish them.
Intact. See, everything, this is what I say is that
It's Wolfgang, the subculture of violence theory.
all the theories that we use to explain black reality come from deficit models. Because you're not like white.
Let's see if I can find it. I'll show you guys real quick. Because everybody's going to keep asking me about this book. Okay, it's actually an expensive ass book too, because it was free, and then they bought the rights to it. That means they're trying to kill it. Oh, subculture of violence. By Wolfgang. Okay. Let me go ahead and give you a. Let's see, real quick. That's the name of the book, Subculture of Violence Theory by Wolfgang. Okay. That's the book. And I just bought it. Okay. Should have paid less. You know, I could have if I had got it on eBay. But that's the book.
People, something is wrong with your family, something's wrong with your consciousness, something's wrong with the way you behave in civil society. So you've taken this kind of drudgery of black pathology and you just picked one out, patriarchy,
Thank you, Al.
to explain black people. But black people, I mean, even back in the 1930s, you had them saying that, well, because black people are savages and don't respect the union of marriage, black men and women aren't very faithful to one another. And the effect of them not being faithful to one another is that you have black women that kill black men because of infidelity, right? And this is in the 1930s. So they said this was part of the segregationist psychology of black America. You can pick any time period and you'll find the same phenomenon. What we know when we look at science is that people who are segregated within poor neighborhoods, people who are segregated within violent neighborhoods, will also have higher rates of violence within their households. That's across the board for men, women, children, etc. Children will fight children. Children will be misbehaved. Children will lash out. There are studies in urban black communities where black boys who are dating black girls in junior high have more experiences and reports of physical violence during dating. So there's
Yes, that's the Klingon theory. Okay. Uh, my grandson, uh, uh, because he said he liked the little girl, she used to fight him all the time. Okay, it's a private Catholic school, and the only reason that they used to get into it physically all the time is because he said he liked her. Because he said he liked her. That's it. But that's the thing is that's why if you go to my Black Pill Gnostic page, right? That's why I said the psychological hobbling of of black males, right? Okay, where I use the example of Misery, the movie Misery, where she broke the officer's ankle so that he couldn't escape. Okay, and after she did it, she said, "God, I love you," after committing a heinous, violent act against him. That's black women.